All right, I'm here with Derek, and I have some questions for him. It's kind of a unique situation. Derek is trying to find a faith, a correct faith that kind of speaks to him, that he can practice and without having any questions or any kind of doubts or anything like that. So I mean, he's currently Christian, I believe. Is that true?
Yep.
Yes,
Yep.
he's currently Christian, but he's looking to other faiths. Obviously, I'm Muslim, and as a Muslim person, I want to know like what drives you to search for the truth. Because I was born in a Muslim family, so I don't know anything else. I was back when I was younger. I did have doubts, but the more research I did in other religions, it brought me closer to my faith, which is Islam. So, how did you come to this journey?
Well, basically, like Christianity is just there's a wide diversity in what people actually believe. So I was brought up like most people here, Protestant. And when I got to high school and teenage years, I got to the point with that where one of the things that really was kind of upsetting to me is how I'd say diverse the opinions are on like what is the how to practice Christianity. I mean, even like the simple tenets of the faith are substantially different from Roman Catholicism to Lutheranism.
So would you say that if, for example, like a Southern Baptist and a Greek Orthodox, are they different?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. If you read, I've even read some books from Orthodox folk who don't even consider Protestantism, Baptists, Lutherans, what have you, to be the same religion. Because I mean, aside from this central point of the religion being a faith that Jesus is God, it's so different depending on who you ask. And so I got to a point where it was like, well, obviously they're not all right. That can't be. It would be really cool if there was still the original church, and you could go and see what the church has always believed. And at least as far as I've found, the closest you can get to that is the Eastern Orthodox churches, which is what I am right now. But there's still even one of the things that at least here is kind of just upsetting about the church in general. And it's nothing about the faith, it's more the churches, is it tends to be like an ethnic social club. It's a Romanian social club or a Russian social club, and it's not. It's a lot more focused on that. And you can't judge the faith based on that
People.
alone.
You can't
right.
base it on the people.
Yeah, because human beings are flawed. So, but yeah, so I converted to Orthodoxy a couple of years ago, and there's. Oh, go ahead.
No, where are you? Basically, what was the catalyst for you trying to look outside of Christianity? I mean, are you currently looking at like Judaism and Islam?
Yeah.
What made you interested in that? What was the catalyst? I guess you can say.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I'm a terrible speaker.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm horrible too. Trust me.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I was in high school and first started to have kind of issues with everybody can't be right, so what is the correct church to go to? I had a friend from whose parents were from Lebanon who was a Muslim, and he got me an English Quran, and I started to seriously be interested in that. Then we graduated from high school. He moved away, 2006.
Okay.
So
it's been not quite a while, but
a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't stop. There wasn't any particular reason that I stopped looking at Islam other than the only person I knew that was a Muslim moved away, and so.
That was 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not a couple of years.
Yeah.
I still feel like it's 2005.
Yeah.
But I'm
Um,
old.
well, but yeah. So anyway, yeah, I've been in the Orthodox Church for a couple of years now, um, and I don't know, I'm kind of getting to the same point where I was with um, with Protestantism, and it's not anything about the religion itself. It's more this like deep-seated terror that I have that it's not right, and I don't know who is, and because the way the way that I look at things, if it were that simple, there'd just be one faith and everybody would go with that. But it's, you know, humans in general, the entire world has different faiths, and there's Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus, Buddhists, and if somebody was just obviously hands down, had some kind of way to be like, this is the only right way, then it would, and maybe somebody does, but
So,
and
but like what you're saying is, if there was like, I believe, to me, I believe Islam is true based on all the facts and things that you can. It's tangible facts, like actual facts. That's what got me into becoming a better Muslim. Because before I was born into a Muslim family, and my parents were cultural, but
right.
once I diverted and trying to think, okay, is this the right religion for me, or is it true? I looked in other faiths, and I got all the facts together, and I came to a conclusion based on facts and concrete evidence that Islam was true. But I think a lot of people choose religions based on where they grow up and
Right, yeah,
cultural like pressures and things like that.
Right, and when you grow up in a certain belief system, that's your baseline. That's what you're brought up with. That is right as far as you're concerned. And when you divert from that, and you're like, well, maybe this thing that I have that is my baseline faith, my morality, whatever else, if maybe this isn't,
That's cool.
if this isn't right, then it kind of gets into a really it kind of gets into I mean it's scary because I more than anything wish that I what what I had grown up with, I could say, wow, this is the way to go, and I could just keep on with that. But I don't think it is. I think there's not orthodoxy, but Protestantism. There's a lot of problems with it. Well, like, I mean, I'm just a layman. I don't have any any.
But I mean, I understand. But if someone shows you, if you're searching for the truth, right? That's what you're doing, obviously, searching for the truth, and somebody presents you something with a lot of evidence and things that are, like, I guess you can call them miracles from this time, like evidence that, 1,200 years ago, 1,400 years ago, this book is telling you something that has come to pass, like prophecies, or, just actually concrete scientific evidence, like, embryology, or, mathematics, or something like that, that just became, in this century, that became, like, evident from scientists. I mean, isn't that kind of concrete stuff that you'll be like, wow, how did that happen? How did they know, in this book 1,200 years ago?
Yeah, I guess so.
Years ago.
That would be, that'd be great. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's not like a quick decision. Like,
oh, yeah,
hey, this is, this says this, so the A equals B, so therefore, it's a hard journey when what you're brought up with isn't what you think the way to go is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're going through, because I was, born into the faith, and that I believe, and I can imagine. I mean, my wife went through the same thing, but she didn't. It took her about 4 years from her introduction to Islam to her accepting it, it was like 2 or 3 years, and
Yeah.
you know, it's a long journey. You know.
Yeah, and right now I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about
Mm-hmm.
how Islam works.
Mm-hmm.
And so far right now, all of it I agree with. So
I guess I'm gonna ask you, where are you at now in terms of your journey
well,
trying to find the truth?
yeah, I wish I knew. And I mean, basically anyway. So getting back to grew up Protestant,
Mhm.
and what you only have to read like one of. You're familiar with Bart Ehrman?
What?
Bart Ehrman.
No, who's he?
He wrote a couple of really popular books that just I think he was a Baptist preacher at some point. They're pretty recent, last couple of decades, maybe last decade. But I mean, if you get into any of his books, he just kind of breaks it down. And he's like, this is where. So if you take Protestantism, where the Bible is the sole authority of the church, here's where it doesn't work. Here's where it says one thing here. Here's where it says another thing here. They don't match up. So I got to that point, and if you take that as your sole basis of faith, well, then that's broken. And so then you're left with a couple of churches that don't base their authority on the Bible, which you've got the Coptic Christians, which I don't think there are many over here. You've got Orthodoxy, you've got Roman Catholicism.
I knew a few Coptics.
Yeah.
They're not. They're scattered throughout the U.S.
Yeah, and
Egyptian usually.
Yeah. So you've got those as your basic churches that don't, and so that's where I am now. But and I can't really point to a single thing and be like, this is why I'm at where I'm at. But there's a kind of notion in our church that the closer you get to God, the farther you realize you are from Him. So, which is kind of really depressing. Like the farther you get into your faith, like the more you feel that, and so that's honestly why I'm at where I am, because that's pretty depressing. And like I was actually yesterday I was talking to the imam at your mosque, Qatar.
Yeah, okay.
And yeah, he was, without me saying that, he said, in Islam, you take, we have a way of saying that, you take one step towards God and He'll take 10 steps towards you, and you walk towards God and He'll run towards you. And that is just totally 180 degrees opposite of what I've been taught now. And so I would like that. But yeah, anyway, that's...
Yeah, I understand. It's a hard thing, because, you're, if, say, you do accept another faith, say you do accept Islam, it's hard because, you're kind of, it seems like you're turning your back on your religion, but
right.
The other thing is, like, it's actually, you're turning your back on Jesus, A lot of people said that in the past to other people that converted. They're like, oh, how can you turn your back on Jesus? It's like, actually, I'm actually following Him correctly. That's what their response is. Like, a lot of this, there's a guy, he's a preacher, and he became Muslim, and he's Baptist preacher, he became Muslim, and that's what he says to people that tell him, like, how come you're Muslim?
Yeah, and I mean that's the weird thing that religion here revolves around, is that the only thing you have to do is accept Jesus as God, and that's it.
What do you mean?
You're saved.
So you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, as far as
and you have belief in your heart. That's about it.
That's it, and that doesn't seem like a realistic model of how salvation works.
So
to
what?
me.
So what happens what happens after judgment? Is there a judgment in Christianity?
Yeah, there is.
So if you're saved by asking, the Savior, if you're saved by that, why would there be judgment to somebody that is already accepted it?
The idea is that human beings are so inherently flawed that it got to a certain point in history where human beings were no longer capable of salvation, and so God had to send a sacrifice that was Himself to die to cleanse the sins of the world. But in Roman Catholicism, in the Orthodox Church, you still you still have to be a decent human being, and you still have to. There are a couple of things that you have to do in the the predominant faith traditions here. That's not the case.
So I have a question. What about the people that came before Jesus? If God sent His Son, I mean, what happens to them? Are they eternally damned? Because He didn't send it earlier or something?
Yeah, that gets interesting, because, well, then the people before Jesus, are under. There's an idea of an old and new covenant. So Jesus brings a new covenant, that anyone post Jesus is under the new covenant. All they have to do is accept Jesus, and the people prior to Jesus were under the old covenant, the Jewish laws. So if you follow those correctly, but
if you ask like if you ask a Jewish person, like a rabbi right now, like a rabbi of anybody that has some knowledge about Christianity, and you ask them, like, who's Jesus to you? A honest rabbi is going to say he was just a layman, which I've heard before. I mean, I heard them say I heard them say worse things actually, because he's our prophet too. He's my prophet also. Jesus was a prophet of God. That's what we believe, and that's kind of insulting to us also. So
yeah,
but they don't. But there seems like there's such a political alliance with Jewish and Christian people.
Yeah, which
I don't
is
understand because they don't even believe Jesus.
Yeah, it's the weird thing, and well, I mean, I think that has to do with the history of the 20th century.
Do you think it would be shocking if the average American person knew that in Islam, Jesus is a prophet and He was actually the Messiah for the Jews? They didn't accept Him.
Because I mean, I don't know a terrible huge amount about Islam, but I do know that much, and I've talked to a couple of people and brought that up, and it is utterly shocking.
Yeah, because they seem like it's like a foreign thing, but there's actually a book, there's an article out. I don't know what newspaper, but it was a major newspaper. I think it was The Guardian, or maybe it was New York Times or something. They had an article about history of Islam in America, and they say Islam was here in the 1300s, with merchant ships that came a long time ago. Yeah, I mean, even with Columbus, like some of his crew people were actually Arab Muslim. But if you look at the history of Spain, with 1492, in 1491 the Muslims gave up power to Queen Isabella and Ferdinand. And then
was it that late? Yeah.
1491, and then Christopher Columbus, he went to them and said, he was always in the past, he was always going to them and like, I want to travel and whatever, I want to go to India and get spices, and then he was looking for financing, and they didn't have money. But when they took over power from the Muslim Spain, they had a lot of money after that, because there's countless gold coin. They took over the war booty basically. And the next year, he went to India, and obviously he didn't reach India. But that's how he got money.
Wow.
It's a direct correlation.
I didn't realize that that it was that close in history where. Wow.
Because Spain was Muslim from the 1800s.
Right.
Sorry, not 800s.
Well, yeah.
800s till 1491.
Wow.
Literally 1491. I think actually 750s. But the history is really. I took a class on Islam and Europe. It's Islamic Spain. So.
That's cool.
And it wasn't like foreigners that were Muslim. It was the Spanish people. They were Muslim too. Like it was Muslim.
And they just went 180 degrees in the opposite direction.
No, then
Rome.
as time went on, they got more materialistic, and they started becoming the society kind of became weaker, and then basically France and Spain, the Spanish Ferdinand and Isabella, they there's a war and they won basically, and
Hmm.
the Muslims got kicked out or killed,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really interesting history.
But, but anyway, you get to a really interesting point with at least the way that they, and like I don't mean to like bunch Catholicism and Orthodoxy and some of the traditional faiths into that, but like the way that Christianity works here, that's why I mean that's why I'd assume you see kind of things like Mormons, where it's some kind of explanation of, well, Jesus showed up in the Middle East. Why didn't anyone show up to save these people over in America? And that's something, at least for me, that's I mean, in the Orthodox Church, and I'm sure the Roman Catholics, they have a way of saying, well, if through ignorance these people didn't know, then it'll be based on their conscience, how they live their lives. But as far as the people that just believe that all you need to do is believe in Jesus and that's it, that is it. It's not so hard to explain away what happened to the people before Jesus. It's kind of hard to explain away what happened to the people that were over here, because why didn't God send anyone to them for 1,500 years?
Okay. Well, in Islam we believe every nation God sent a messenger.
Had its prophets.
So the estimated 126,000. And obviously there's a select number that are recorded in the Quran and other scriptures.
Right, and I like the way that your faith deals with that by saying, well, everybody got prophets in a way that they could understand, and that's if you look at any culture throughout history, there, as far as modern times record, there wasn't any culture that was inherently atheistic. They all had
they had some kind of
right, whether well, like even here, if the way that you can understand God is through trees and animals, then okay, that's how.
But that's the thing with the clarity with Islam, is that we believe God has told us exactly how, what He is. He's only one God. There's these attributes that are inherently only uniquely His. The Creator. And He's not begotten. He can't have kids. And he's not a human. He doesn't have human characteristics. We can't even think about what he looks like.
Right.
Because it's our mind can't comprehend it. And to go into that area, it's kind of not good.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you put an image of God? They make fun of God in cartoons, and a guy with a white beard, and the Sistine Chapel. They have God with a finger. I mean, to me, that's really baffling. How can you even, put an image to God, or how could he even, when He says in the commandments, don't, I don't know.
No
exactly,
graven images.
no graven images, and it just, to me, it just kind of shocks me. But my wife was the same way. She was questioning things like the commandments and how come it's so different. They have saints for everything. Saint for getting good grades in school, and
we do, yeah. There's a saint for there's a patron saint of toothaches, and there's a patron saint of computer programmers, Saint Isidore of Spain. Yeah, I don't know that.
It's just the concept of God is explained so well, I think, in Islam. The concept, the way He wants to be, I guess, followed. It's so clear to me. There's no questions in my mind. I don't know.
In the Eastern Church, at least, our whole notion of sainthood is a little difficult for me to get my brain around, because I mean our notion of what happens at death is very similar to Islam, where you die and you're kind of in a state where you're asleep, almost.
Yeah.
Until the judgment.
But we believe that when you're asleep, you're still going to be judged, or
you still get some kind of reward or punishment.
In the grave.
Yeah. In Christianity, there's a wide belief system. There's a lot of people here that believe that you die and you're instantly in heaven. But anyway, in Orthodoxy, at least, the way that it works is that anyone, it works the same way. If you're saved or damned, you die and you await judgment. But people who live exceptionally good lives go to heaven immediately and are the saints, and then pray for the people that are.
Oh, I see.
And that, I don't know. I didn't have a problem with accepting that at first. More and more, I have a bit of a hard time getting my brain wrapped around it. I mean, that's one thing. I just completely blanked on what I was going to say after that.
When I was looking at Christianity to follow up, when I was after my teenage years, maybe like 22 or something, I couldn't get around the fact of, like for example, Jesus, peace be upon him, he says that, you can't eat pork or, keep the Sabbath or whatever, he said those things. And then, this guy, when I did my history about Paul, he comes around, I don't know how many years later, 60 years or...
I think about 50.
60 years later, and,
I'm sorry,
I never met him or anything, and...
Yeah, I think...
he's like contradicting him, like, you don't have to get circumcised, you don't have to, you can eat pork and this and that. It's like, I understand how he supersedes his authority, and especially if he's the Son of God. I mean, how is this guy speaking for him, when he said this so explicitly?
Yeah.
And on the fact that before he had this image of Jesus, he used to be actually working for the Romans, right? Or to hunt down.
Right. Yeah, he was involved
Christians.
with persecuting the early church.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think more than anything, the thing that I'm just kind of struggling with Christian faith right now is that it seems that God fundamentally changes between what he was before, at least how people's, because I mean as humans we can't, there's a limit to our ability to logic through things, and there's a limit to how we can understand things. So all we've got is our best model in our brains of what God is. But I mean, it seems like it just really fundamentally shifts from Judaism to Christianity. Like all of a sudden,
like the
there's
Old Testament, the New Testament. It's
there's
different attributes of God. It's like,
there's now God is three things and one thing at the same time, and that I don't. It wouldn't be as rough for me if this isn't what I would have grown up with. And religion's always been really important to me. And so, some people that could just go, well, shoot, this is what I brought up with. It doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. And I just don't work like that. So it's.
I find solace in the fact that anybody that submits to God is a Muslim, submits to God, right? So from Abraham to the last prophet Muhammad, they had the same image. I mean, same message to their people, and it's like it's almost like a long line of messengers, obviously, and they had the same exact message. It didn't change. It didn't become like, worship this way or that. It's just always the same. And even Jesus, like when somebody asked him in the garden, how do I go to heaven? I don't know exactly the quote, but I wish I had it on me. I heard it many times.
He frequently, I think, told people to follow the commandments. And then we get to a point where we're like, that doesn't matter.
But see, I don't understand where the shift is. Obviously the Pauline doctrine, To me, when I was looking into Christianity, that was like, okay, you know what? Now it solidified my belief in my